Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I am very excited about because it is all about the new Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette. Now I picked this thing up a little bit over a week ago. I've had so much fun playing with this thing. I was very excited about this. If you guys watch my other videos, you guys will know that I'm a bit of an eyeshadow, some might say addict, I like to say enthusiast. I love eyeshadow palettes and I especially love Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow palettes and her formula. It's one of my very favorite formulas on the market. I have always considered Anastasia to be kind of the master when it comes to creating perfectly done neutral palettes, but this obviously is not a neutral palette. This is very colorful, which is quite a ways outside of my comfort zone. So maybe you're asking yourself, why would I pick up a palette when I'm a neutral wearer? Well, I do on occasion like to dip into color, and I really wanted to kind of challenge myself to see if I could come up with wearable looks using this palette. So today's video we are going to be doing 7 looks using every shade inside this palette, and I'm trying to make these looks wearable for any of you that, like me, are maybe a little bit intimidated by color and want to use color but do it in a kind of soft wearable way. That was kind of my goal today. I think for the most part I would say I was successful. We're gonna jump right into those 7 looks first. If you want to hear my thoughts, my review, my kind of overview on this palette, I will include that after the 7 looks, so be sure to stick around for that. There are some things that I think are fantastic about this palette, but there are some things I think to keep in mind that maybe are not for everyone as well. So I will get into that at the end. For those of you that are new here, welcome. I hope that you will subscribe to my channel. I do these 7 look videos quite often here on my channel using some of my favorite eyeshadow palettes. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the 7 looks. Alright you guys, I hope that you enjoyed those 7 looks. Please keep in mind that I definitely want this to be more of an inspiration for you guys in just using color in general. You can certainly recreate these looks or similar looks using eyeshadows that you already have in your collection. So I want to share my thoughts on this palette in general, kind of what I liked about it, who I don't think this palette would be for, who I think it would be for. We'll kind of go into those details in just a minute. But I wanted to mention a couple of things that I kind of used in creating these slightly more wearable, colorful eyeshadow looks. So if you are someone that wants your color to be a little bit soft, there are a couple of tips that I want to give you guys. You may have kind of seen these in the 7 looks that I created, but I want to kind of explain some of those tips on how I got some of these very vibrant shades to work in a much softer, more neutral way. First, and I think most important thing, is to prep your eyelids using something very brightening. I actually used my Tarte Shape Tape in the color Fair. You certainly could use a white eyeshadow base or just something that's a bright, lighter shade than your skin tone. Having something lighter underneath these colors is going to make them a little bit softer, especially if you're going in with a light hand. Now, another thing that is important is, especially with some of these very vivid kind of neon shades like these right here, I found it very helpful to either apply this white shade on first or to combine some of these colors with the white shade, because this is going to actually soften up those colors a little bit. Adding something either white or cream either as a base layer or combined with or even on top of those bright vivid colors that maybe get away from you sometimes is going to help to lighten them up a little bit. One more tip I think when working with these shades, especially again, these 3 shades right here are very vivid. Even this one, which looks like a soft pink only because it's sitting next to a neon pink, they're both quite bright, especially this one right here. These I found I really want to apply the smallest amount to my brush. I tapped my brush off several times before going into my eye, and even on some of the looks I actually kind of rubbed my brush on the back of my hand to get any excess pigment off, and then just went in and really slowly built up the color. I think that's key if you're wanting to not go super intense, because once that neon color is on your eyelid, it's a little bit trickier to tone it down. Again, whether you're using this palette or maybe if you have some bold colors already in your collection that you want to create wearable looks out of, those are just some tips that I have for you guys on how to make colorful eyeshadows a little bit more wearable and soft. So now let's get into the things that I really liked about this palette. First off, the packaging. I'm not gonna lie you guys, the packaging is 70% of the reason that I bought this palette in the first place. I'm actually wearing my blue and white striped shirt, my gold hoops today, in celebration of my love for all things nautical. I love the color navy blue. It is one of my very favorite colors in the world. I know packaging is not a big deal to anyone, and I definitely would not recommend you spending $45 of your hard-earned cash on something just because it looks really cute. I'm very embarrassed to say that that's kind of what I did. But I have to give it to Anastasia because this packaging is just adorable. I love it. As far as the shadows go, I know that's what is the most important thing in here. The formula of these, I think across the board, is really fantastic. I found all of the mattes to be very pigmented, very blendable, very easy to work with, which is pretty standard for Anastasia's matte eyeshadow formula. As for the shimmers in here, I think they're really fantastic with the exception of one that I'll kind of get into in just a sec. Just very quick and easy to work with, especially if you're using a really good dense brush or your finger. I do want to mention these 3 shades right here are said to be pressed pigments. I did not find them to be difficult to work with. I was a little bit intimidated by hearing that fact, but I didn't find them to be difficult at all. I had no trouble blending these. I had no trouble just softly applying these. They worked really well for me. So I'm going to insert the swatches right here for you guys so you can kind of get a feel for the color story of this. I'm sure that you have seen swatches of this palette already. I know there have been a lot of videos up on this palette, but just so you can see them kind of side by side. So a couple of standout shades for me, ones that I really loved especially, were these 2 yellows right here. I love this matte yellow. This is kind of a very trendy color right now. I'm seeing this pop up in so many different palettes. I probably have 3 other eyeshadow palettes that have a very similar shade to this. It's kind of a soft mustard shade. I love this color. I think it's very on trend right now, but I also think it's a color that looks good on anybody. I think it's a neutral that's just crossed over a little bit into that color side. I loved the yellow look that I created in combination with this shimmery yellow right here. This is a very fun yellow. It's a gold that has just a bit more canary kind of color in it. It's fun to use on your inner corner as just a pop of color. It's also a beautiful lid shade. I loved this color. I also really loved these two shimmery colors right here. They look a little similar right there, but they are quite different. This one has quite a bit more kind of periwinkle bluish purple in it. This one has a little bit more of a silvery lilac. And what I love about these two shades is they definitely are a bit more of your kind of chameleon colors. Depending on what you pair in your crease or in your outer corner or underneath them, they can kind of take on different looks depending on what you use them with. I also want to mention this white right here. Now I know a matte white seems quite boring, but I think with a palette like this was absolutely essential for me in creating a little bit more softer, more wearable kind of looks. This white is kind of what made this look that I'm wearing today, what gave it its brightness and its wearability and softened up kind of that purple color and that shimmery color on top. Very basic, but a very necessary shade, one that I use in almost every look that I created. I do, however, want to mention the one shade that I had trouble working with. I tried creating a couple different looks with this shade. You may have wondered why it didn't really show up other than on my lower lash line in these looks, because it's really the only neutral, what I would consider a truly neutral color in this palette, and it's this shade right here, Yacht. This is the bronze that they included in here. So this shade is probably one of the ones I was most excited to see in this palette because I love a bronze eyeshadow, and I especially love Anastasia's either bronzes or rose golds, the bronze type of shades that she includes in so many of her other palettes, in her soft glam palette, in her sultry palette. They are some of my very favorite bronzy type of colors in my collection. But unfortunately this shade just did not work for me. It actually swatches really nicely. It looks really nice and kind of golden. It's kind of a light shimmery gold, but for some reason when I put this on my eyelids, it doesn't look nearly this reflective or intense, and it actually makes my eyelids look very, very textured. And I mean like wrinkly textured. I'm not talking glitter texture. I don't mind glitter on my eyelids. I am 37 years old. That may have something to do with this, but I've never found that to be a problem with any of her other shimmery formulas in her other palettes. I'll definitely keep playing with this shade a little bit, see if I can find a way to make it look a little bit better on my eyelids. The one thing I will say about the color of this, it looks like a traditional bronze in the pan, but when you blend this out into your skin, it has almost a purpley pink undertone to it, which I don't know that's gonna pick up on camera, but it kind of almost made it disappear on my eyelids. So it basically left my eyelid just looking old. I don't know if it was just me, and maybe it was just my eyelids, maybe it's just my skin tone, but for some reason that shade just kind of disappointed me, and it was one of the ones that I was most hoping to be out of the park. So now I want to kind of get into who I think this palette is best suited for. So if you are someone that is very intimidated by color, if you do not want to do anything overly bright on your lids, I'm not sure that this is going to be a good palette for you. I do feel that most of the looks that I was able to create were pretty wearable, but there were a couple that even for me were a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I mean a little bit too far outside of my comfort zone. This pink right here is truly neon pink. It's insanely bright. Even if you go in with the light hand, even combined with the white, it's a little too bright for my personal taste. However, if you are someone that loves color, loves being creative with color and coming up with different color combinations and doing fun cut creases and very bright pops of color on your eyes, I think you will love this palette. But if you are someone that is a little bit more budget conscious, that is typically a neutral wearer, I'm not sure investing in a high-end colorful eyeshadow palette, in my opinion, is the smartest use of money, at least for me personally. As much as I had fun playing with this palette, I know this is probably not a palette that I will use to create everyday kind of looks. And that does make me a little bit sad. I wouldn't say that I regret picking up this palette. I had fun playing with it. I do think that I will use this on occasion, but I definitely think that's something to keep in mind. What do you typically like to reach for? What are you most comfortable in? Because if you are not super comfortable in bright, vivid colors or even soft colors, then I definitely think this is probably not the palette for you. I do, however, want to add this thought. I think that the direction that they took this color story in was actually very smart of Anastasia, because I just don't think that Anastasia coming up with another mostly neutral palette would be very smart, because we've seen that from them so many times. They've done it so well in their other palettes, and I definitely have seen a trend moving a little bit more towards color in eyeshadow. So I think that this was probably a good move for them. I just don't know that this is going to be a palette that is for everybody, at least not right now. I am excited to have this in my collection though. I'm going to push myself to reach for this even more because some of the looks that I created, including the one that I'm wearing today, this kind of purple one, I really love. And I want to try and challenge myself to do looks like that a little bit more often. But that is all that I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for stopping by today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the 7 looks that I created. I hope it was inspiring to you. I hope that you will subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys all in my next video. Bye. Let's get into the things I really liked about this palette. There's a lint flying in my hair. Eyeshadows that you have already in your collection that are colorful. That was badly worded. Channel today, again, I encourage you to... Oh.
Mom.
Hi! She said, wait, I'm almost done. Oh, you just wiped that right in your boogers. I can clean it later. The blue one? Ooh, let's try that one. I'll help you. Dang, with expensive makeup with your toddler. If you knew how special you were, Charlie. Oh, yes. The pink and the blue is so pretty together.
More blue.
More blue? Let's get a new brush. Let's try this brush.
Purple.
How about you put it on your nose? No? Oh, very pretty. Wow.
Nose.
It's so pretty. Look number 8 right here, guys.
Let's take a nose.
Oh, on my nose too? Oh, yes. That goes perfectly.
It's a got
I
cat.
love it. I love it.
Hey, guy, little mommy.
Yeah, the new way to highlight your nose. What, do you need more blue? You need more blue? Oh, yes. There we go. Oh, yeah, shade that nose. Yes. Oh. You're the best. You're the best.